video spread over 3 cycles. The first one is November 1997. The second one is September 2000. And this last one is late May 2001. This is the Tree Trust Nursery at the Gaslight Theatre. Native plants raised from seed by Tree Trust members, potted out. Comment was made by some people, what are we going to do with all these plants? Where are we going to put them? You will subsequently see what's happened to most of our stock is quite low at the moment. Plants through there, like Kawa, which you'll see a bit later, all grown from seed, a lot of Pittosporums. We found in growing these, or we've learnt from experience, that plants that are spread by the birds are probably our best bet. Ones spread by the wind, probably not quite so good. Bigger major trees there like the Hagateas, all grown from seed. You see that a lot of those are found their way into swampy areas. I wouldn't know what number, thousands of plants. The council we haven't claimed for all these things, all these plants that we put out, particularly the last ones. Seeing names on a few of these. Manuka, Kanuka, all that stuff is gone. That we had to build a bigger area and then even go outside that. We found wineberry wasn't successful. Most of it got disease and we lost most of that. But if we could have got round it, I think it's probably got a very good place in planting. Some of the more frost tender plants we keep under cover. Tawa is a classic example. You can't put that out in the open, it gets burned. This is our new standout area. You can see all those young plants. They all subsequently found a home. Bigger totara, Pittosporums, all sorts. Credit to the hard-working people that went on working bees to get all the stuff up and running. Things go in cycles. We're now in a bit of a trough as far as the Tree Trust goes, but I guess it will rise up again. Hard to keep the public up with what we've been trying to do. But perhaps this video might help. All that area was filled after this was taken. You can see that the number of plants there runs into thousands. And all these had to be transported, which was a huge logistical thing. All carted across the stream was a nightmare. But thanks to the Cambridge High School, in 3 years that they have helped us, we supplied the transport and they did a lot of the work. And we've got up to Shelley Street. The original, this was November 1997. The boardwalk was put through here and finished about Christmas 1996. And it was sprayed, or this area you're looking at now was sprayed in March 1997. All high blackberries, you couldn't wade through this. Had to be crushed down, sprayed out for planting in 1998. You'll get 3 or 2 other looks at this, looking back at the steps coming down. Weeds coming back, but they're only a minor problem. All this was smashed up and burnt, cleaned out, so children could come in here and plant trees. It's going into the boardwalk. This floats on plastic drums so that can't get float away or anything. Across a stream that runs through it. press and bits and pieces in it. This is on the other side of the bridge. It got so bad that blackberries nearly blocked this after it was built. Cutting them back just pruned it. But escort dealt to it. You can see how thick it was from there. All this was tidied up, burnt. Community task force, we got some value and we set them on it, and the council paid for it. It was well worth the effort. Some people might not think so, but I do. It's just into the swamp, very swampy. You'll see how this has changed. Going in on the other side into the pussy willows, about 400 kahikateas and flax and other bits and pieces. Pukateas planted in this area, growing away. A lot of regenerated food. This is what shade does to the track. That track hasn't been touched. Running out the other side towards Lamb Street. Probably needs some more BMX track. Motocross on the other side. Probably needs a line of trees along here. Back into the boardwalk. You can see how high the blackberries were. They were right across the track in a little over 6 weeks. Back into this area we first looked at. We prepared for planting this coming in the winter of the 1997. This is what we call Addison Street, going up to the end of Addison Street, up the Greenbelt. Note the fence. Take good note of this line of trees growing along the edge of it. There's an area below Upper Kingsley Street, gorse, rubbish. Have a look at that. You'll see this a bit later on too. Down into the stream that runs down to the river. Carries stormwater from Carlisle Street, which is causing erosion. Council's been dumping concrete over here for a while to try and hold it. Been doing it for years. The bank at this end is fairly stable, but you'll see the damage further up. Take good note of this bank because you're going to see it later. It bears no resemblance to this. Earthworks was done along it. All this was reshaped. These are trees planted years ago. This is what we'd like to see. There are weeds in under this, but not as bad as they are out in the open. We're coming up now. There's serious damage here from stormwater coming out of one of these streams. Knocked the big hole in the bank. Children were burrowing holes in that. I had to get the police to chase them away. Now this is damage. You can see the extent of the damage. Subsequently, you'll see the rock weir that was built across here. This is our first planting, Arbor Day. The goats got into this and chewed it out. You can see the odd plant in there, but very badly damaged. Rushes were dug out, tidied up, and you'll see it a bit later. This is across on the other side of the stream into an area that was high blackberries, dense, thick blackberries, sprayed out with escort, withered up mess, beaten down by the community task force with our scrub cutters. This is looking back to where we've come, all the high rubbish along the side. This area that we sprayed, you could only get so far into it. You couldn't get every last corner. This area, I said at the time, we'll never ever deal with this. We'll go as far as where we're burnt off, and that's it. But you're going to see just what determination by Jim Bennett did to this area. Incredible. Got rid of the privet. Burnt and burnt and burnt. Had the fire brigade down one stage, but it didn't make any difference to him. He cleaned it up. This is looking out towards the tree trust sign, around where you'll see the seat a bit later. You can see this is all quite open, but you're later going to see what a dramatic change there is in it. Put the sign up. This is just on the area where the goats chewed it out, right by where the track comes down. We come back to Shelley Street, jumping around. This is in September 2000. Back here, You see a few terratas on the top of the bank, steps going down into this area across where I pointed out before was in high blackberries. You can see the trees on both sides of the track coming up. You'll get a quick shot of this later in May. There's no resemblance to what it first looked like. Looking back into it, you see the trees, this area. Take particular notice of this picture because you're going to get a brief glimpse of it a bit later. Looking up into the Leamington school children planted these, and a very good job they made of it too. Needs a bit of maintenance, but not bad. This is onto the boardwalk. You can see the change, sedges, flax starting to show through. Workmen made an excellent job of this boardwalk. Be there for years. Flax grows up alongside it, and hopefully it won't need a great deal of maintenance. What's behind it is just too huge to even contemplate doing much with it. All it needs is a strip behind that kept under control, which I think can be done with a knapsack sprayer, providing somebody organises it. A few trees there on a bit of dry ground, and then into the reeds and flax and what have you. This is a wetland, and that's what it looks like, and that's what it is. Pukakos, various other things, frogs, all sorts of wildlife growing in it. This is in under the willow trees, kahikatea, flax we planted, the ferns came themselves, a few cabbage trees. About 400 trees went into this area, but most of it's come back itself. There's another boardwalk being put down to connect this to Southey Street, put in by a developer. No work was done on that. And this is the end of the Southey Street boardwalk. We planted this area, but the Leamington children, but it's been very difficult, full of convolvulus, probably wasn't prepared as well as it could have been, and some of the plants are struggling. Some of those kahikateas that you saw previously staked up. Boardwalk into the back from Southey Street into the swamp. Bridge across the little stream. Means there's two bridges, one on each part of the boardwalk. People that did the boardwalk, private people, put the seat here. I think it's a great idea to sit there. You see the coprosmas coming up and it all self-sown, thousands of them, spread by the pukakos and other birds. I suppose subsequently the willows could be taken out, bit of honeysuckle in amongst it and other stuff. See there, we're back on the other boardwalk in Shelley Street. Right, we're back what we call Addison Street. This is September of 2000. The fence is going to be shifted out 5 metre. We had this mulch shifted in, leaves shifted onto the site in preparation for what we're going to do. And this is looking across onto the other side of the stream towards the houses. It leads a shade barrier along the top of the bank so that we can at least try and control some of the weeds in this very steep, ugly gully that's between the camera and the other side. All leaves and stuff, mulch that has been just wasted by the council. Cost us $300 to shift this, but well worth the effort. You'll see how it paid off. Peg there for the fence to be shifted. The fence was literally pulled out and re-erected outside that line. Piles of dirt that were dumped here were levelled off. The fence you can see coming up was put up previously. The high school had planted, looking across onto this area on the other side. Gorse was cut out. It's all been planted in different sorts of trees. Very hard site, but it's got some stuff on on it. Looking down into the stream, you'll see the change a bit further up as you go. Quite dramatic, really. High school planted this area. You can see the young trees. Now you can see this water feature that was built across the stream, partially by the council and partially by St Peter's fourth formers. Just on the left of that picture was where that huge hole was. Totally different. The erosion is so severe upstream that thing was filled in one flood. This is all planted. Very difficult to pick this out. This was the third formers in May 2000. A credit to them. We supplied the transport and they did the planting. Subsequently it improved even on that. The children got these boulders on the right hand side of the picture right across, slid them across on boards. This is a bridge a bit further up stream. Yeah, those boulders you're looking at now were slid right across the stream. We've got a whole truckload. The ones on the left hand side were put in by McFalls. But the ones on the right, no, they were slid over there by determined children. Seat erected the year of the older person, a bit round about where the sign is, the tree trust sign was. Looking down into the area that the goats chewed out, really dramatic growth. Bears no resemblance to what it was first like. Looking across the stream into where the track goes up to the cemetery, tree lucerne, excellent thing for suppressing weeds, pushing up, grows very readily. The track that runs to Upper Kingsley Street. This is the track that the goats chewed out. Look at the dramatic growth on it. By next year it'll be completely covered. And that's what we're looking at. Shade. Bridge across the stream onto this area that we had to spray the blackberries out of. This is the track leading up to the cemetery. No maintenance needs to be done on that. None whatsoever. Across on the other side, looking into the ferns and stuff, said we'd never deal with this, but Jim Bennett thought otherwise. Cleaned it all out, burnt it, made a wonderful job of it. Changed the thing completely. The ferns, well, those ferns are self-sown. There was some native stuff in here. It's not all done by us, but a lot of it is. Bridge across the Carlisle Street stream, which is prone to flooding. This is where Jim Bennett's cleaned out an area right in the back in the gums, opened it right up, all high rubbish, vines and junk, burnt all the stuff. Had a fire going in the creek there, no problem burning anything. Responsible person. That's the size of the privet that he dealt to with a handsaw. Down past the Addison Street gate towards the river, this fence is going to be shifted. I don't think you can see the pegs, but you'll see it a bit later on, what's happened to it. And a fairly easy site to deal with because it's straight out of pasture. Going back up towards the gate. We've now gone back to the walkway in Addison Street, and this is looking across into the area where was dried blackberry. That's a gum tree as a landmark there. There was a pine tree growing here. You could have seen it on the left, on the right before. This is the track going up to the cemetery. No maintenance, doesn't need any maintenance. Tree lucerne dominating everything. Thick. You can see no weeds under this, simply because the light can't get into it. You probably overplanted it, but that's not a bad thing. pine tree that was cut down by the council to get rid of it, opened it up. Looking into this area that Jim Bennett had cleaned out, we thought it was a no-go area. A lot of stuff that's come up there is self-sown. It's not all of our making. It was there, don't even be rooted out. There's some kawa growing under the gum trees. High school children planted this. Look at it, ferns. They didn't plant the ferns, but all this other stuff's doing extremely well. Credit to them. Back onto the other side of the stream, looking at what the high school planted in May of 2000 at Bridge, and coming up this water feature, you can now start to see some of those plants that you couldn't see before growing. Right through this area, all well planted, all doing extremely well. It was a good growing year. Here's this water feature again that these children put in. Now finished. The May planting of last year bears no resemblance to what it was, does it? An asset to the town. Bit of slumping there, but nothing really severe. Tree lucerne growing along the top. Council don't want us to use tree lucerne. They think it's a weed. I don't think it's a weed. I think it's a major weed suppressor. This is the area where the mulch was. Now the PD planted this and watered it and mulched it. Made an excellent job. Looking up into that bank on below Upper Kingsley Street, all been planted, gorse cut down, some spraying done, but trees dotted in amongst it. Back to the PD's planting. This was very, very late, but it's done extremely well. There's been some losses. Manuka was the chief thing that fell over, but most of it's done very well indeed. If you'd have told me this was going to look like this, I wouldn't have believed you. A few terratas just up from the gate in Addison Street. These have all been subsequently mulched to keep the weeds down. This is the area that the high school children planted in May of this year, or late April. And this was a project where not only did they plant trees, they had to identify what they were planting and what the reasons for planting were for. It runs right round to the river. It's a 5-metre protection strip. All this has subsequently been mulched. A collar put round the trees to keep the weeds out. All the stuff is lying in the council yard, all surplus, all used just simply by organising to do it. And it could be done on a much wider and grander scale if we got some more cooperation from some people further up the tree. This is an excellent job. The kids enjoyed it, so did we. And we were extremely short-handed. We had several people overseas, so we were scratching for what we could put in the way of supervision, but they did a very good job and they were very enthusiastic. Very enthusiastic. We've got a gap here while we flick to the last one in Shelley Street back to the end of the thing, and you'll only get a brief look at this because it was very quick. It was a miserable day. There you are, there's a track in Shelley Street. You can see now what's starting to dominate the track. Few weeds along it, but not much. By next year I guarantee there won't be much. Into the boardwalk you can see the flax starting to grow. And further out, we didn't go much further than this, but a big change from what it had been previously.
come too close, will they?